Alright, I'm on the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. This is such an important book of the Bible. 2 books of the Bible, okay, so the Babylonians capture the Israelites, okay? They've captured the Israelites, but King Cyrus lets them go, okay? He lets a whole bunch of slaves go from different regions. I might get into that in another video, but he lets the Israelites go, not just the Israelites, but many other cultures go back into their land. Okay? And so Ezra is one of the he was a scribe that led people back into Jerusalem. Okay? So and then Nehemiah is the other person. He was only a cupbearer, but he led the people, the second wave of people back into Jerusalem. Okay? This is another wave of people. So it's kind of sad because on the first wave of people who come, only about 40,000 people return back to Jerusalem. At this point, there's supposed to be over 1 million Jews, okay? But only 40,000 choose to go back to Jerusalem, okay? Because they got comfortable in Babylon, right? They got comfortable in Babylon. They got used to living there, so they stayed there. So these 40,000 decided to go with Ezra back to Jerusalem when King Cyrus said they could go. He was a Persian king. The Persians took over the Babylonians, and when they took over the Babylonians, the Persian king let them go. There's a whole bunch of interesting stuff with that, but I'm gonna try to keep this going. So this is the book of Ezra and Nehemiah is known as the second Exodus. They have to go. They're in captivity, first in the captivity of the Egyptians for 400 years, and they're in captivity with the Babylonians for 70 years. And they're back where they started from again. They got captured, and some of them chose to stay there, though, this time. They chose to stay captives, okay? These ones, they were allowed to let go, and they let them go. And, So Ezra and Nehemiah talks about what happens when these guys go back into Jerusalem, okay? And it's known as the second Exodus. The exact same thing's happening again, okay? But Ezra and Nehemiah, they're supposed to represent Moses and Joshua, okay? Like the same archetypes, all right? The same kind of, but they're a different kind of leaders. They weren't literally fighting battles with the enemies, but they were doing spiritual warfare is the meaning in all this stuff, okay? These were the prophets. It was the kings and the prophets. Now these are Ezra and Nehemiah. They're a different kind of group of people that help lead the Israelites back to God, okay? That's kind of the meaning in these 2 books. One of the meanings. So only 40,000 decided to go back, and this is what happens when they go back to Jerusalem, okay? This is obviously just in this little story here. This is a meaning of how people, they like being captives. They like being stuck in their sin, and they stay there, right? They don't want to go back. They don't want to get better. They like staying stuck in bondage, right? They like their addictions. They don't want us to be set free, so God gives them the free will to do that. King Cyrus gave them the free will. God gave them the free will to do what they wanted to see if they would stay loyal, and only 40,000 of them did. Of course, not very many, right? Compared to the big picture. This is a hint to you that you should probably be one of these 40,000, okay? Not one of the millions that decided to stay captive. All right, this whole Bible is about to switch gears now into spiritual stuff. It's going to be about the Spirit. It's going to be about free will. And it's going to be about the Holy Spirit. And it's going to be about Jesus, of course. It's going to be about God in a different light. The Bible is about to kick it into another gear right now. Okay? That's what all this temple talk is about. All right? So this is what happens to get back in the temple. So I need to remind you that the Babylonians completely burned down and tore up Jerusalem, okay? The temple isn't there. Okay, so when Zerubbabel gets there, and Ezra and Nehemiah get there. They're trying to rebuild the city and the temple. All right. When they get there, it's in shambles. Like kind of like this picture, it's in shambles, but they're trying to build it. This is all metaphor for you. All right. They're trying to get back to God. They're trying to get back to their faith. Right. So for the first thing they realize when they start building the foundation, when they start building the animal sacrifice, they build the rock where they make the animal sacrifice. Okay, they make the animal sacrifice first. That was the first thing they did. All these animal sacrifices. When they first get there. Why? What's the meaning of that? The center of their worship was sacrifice. That should be a main part of our worship. But it's not going to be the center of our worship anymore. I know that's confusing, but I'll get to that in a minute. A main part of our worship should be sacrifice. Obviously, we don't do animal sacrifices anymore. What does God mean by the center of our worship being a sacrifice? We have to sacrifice the luxuries of this world for Jesus and God, right? We have to make sacrifices of the things we want and the things that make us comfortable in this world for Jesus and for God to help people get to heaven, right? We have to sacrifice things. For Jesus obviously sacrificed a lot. We have to be like him. We have to sacrifice a lot too. We have to sacrifice our time and energy, not animal sacrifice. We have to sacrifice our time and energy to reading the Bible, all right? Not wasting time on ourselves, not making just money for ourselves, not just living for ourselves. We have to sacrifice our time and energy to read the Bible and use our lives for other people to bring them to save them from hell ultimately. Okay, we have to sacrifice. We get to have millions of dollars and just wander around going on vacations our whole lives, right? Our lives are about sacrifice, and later we can get the benefits. Okay, that's the meaning of this. A part of our worship is sacrifice. The center of their worship back then was a sacrifice. It's been shifted now. What's the center of our worship now? The main part of it is a sacrifice, but it's not the center anymore. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Wait till when I get to the end, you'll see what I mean. So Zerubbabel gets there, and they're building the animal sacrifice mound. Okay, there's also some other people there. They realize. Okay, they're building the sacrifice mound. They're doing the animal sacrifices, and they're starting to get the foundation going, and the temple built. And all these other new people start showing up. Okay, they start showing up, and they say, "Hey, we want to help you build the temple." Who are these other people? They are actually the Israelites from the Assyrians. They got released earlier too. But they do sacrifices to Yahweh, but they also have been dabbling with the Canaanite gods still, okay? Or the Assyrian gods still. So, and when you read it, the writing of it is very confusing because you generally don't know if they're trying to help build the temple, like they want to know Yahweh better, or if they're being mischievous. Okay, you can't tell. You can't, and it's written like that on purpose. You can't tell if these guys are really the enemy or the adversaries, or they're just as confused as these guys. There's meaning in that because everything's different now, right? Everyone's confused. Everything's changed. They've been in captivity in 2 different places. Everyone's got their own ideas in their heads now, and it's confusing. So I wanted to bring that up. So Zerubbabel says no to them. Okay, and you can decide just for yourself if that was a good choice or a bad choice, but it's designed to make you think like that on purpose. Should we? The thing is, you have to use discernment. You need discernment to know whether to help people or if they're really there to bring you down. Okay, you have to use discernment. Okay, and they didn't. Zerubbabel may or may not have had any discernment. He couldn't tell if these guys were trying to help or if they were genuinely trying to know Yahweh better. Okay, so what happens next is Ezra comes. So Ezra comes with the second wave of exile people from Babylon. And what she brings to the table is she brings the Torah back into play with the people. She brings back the rules of Moses. She starts reading the Torah to people. As he starts, sorry, I keep calling her she. He starts. He's trying to get people back into the law of Moses. So we have the temple being built by specs. Everything's by specs. The temple's being built according to the law, and they're teaching people the law, reteaching people the law. The people are getting motivated. It's all going in the right direction. Okay. So they got the temple being going up. The animal sacrifices are going. The people are learning the Bible, right? So they got everything in order so far, and then Nehemiah comes, and his contribution is the wall. So they got the temple going. The people are building their temple correctly. They're reading the law of Moses and studying the Bible correctly. And this Nehemiah works on the wall that's crumpled, okay, and the gates are messed up. He comes and fixes all the walls and gates, okay. So the enemies can't come near, okay, but they're not fighting any enemies. Everything's going according to plan very smoothly. Okay, they're doing the laws of Moses correctly. They're doing everything to specs. Okay, the wall's going up. The animal sacrifices are going. Everyone looks like they're heading the right direction. Okay, but nothing is happening. If you read it, nothing spiritually wonderful is happening. Like if you're reading the first part of the Bible, the Spirit of God comes, and it's a big cloud, and there's like burning bushes, and like you can really sense the presence of God. And so, they're expecting all the people just to everything to be wonderful, and nothing really good is happening. The people start getting lazy again. They start falling asleep at the wall. They just immediately start leading astray again, and you wonder why. Like they're following everything they're supposed to be doing. They're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. They have protection against the enemies. They're doing everything correctly. Okay, so what's wrong? So you're reading it, and you know what's missing? The Ark of the Covenant is gone. That's right. You are reading this it doesn't tell you that it's gone. You just realize when you're reading it, after a while, that the Ark of the Covenant is gone. The whole main reason for all of that, to begin with, was God. The heart of everything should be God, not rules. Is the whole point of these two books. Everyone lost their focus on what the main heart of everything really was. Okay? If you don't have God as the center of your heart and Jesus as the center of your heart, you can do all of that stuff and it won't mean anything. You're reading this book and people don't realize the Ark of the Covenant is not even in there, and you're still wondering why no one is being filled with the presence of God, because the presence of God is not there. They forgot about it. This is such a lesson in being too caught up in following the rules and too caught up fighting the enemies and worried about the enemies, that you lose your focus on God and Jesus. That's what the whole point of these two books. It's such an important two books. All these prophets, all these people got together. They're trying to, follow the rules, but they lost focus on what the point was. That's why when you read the first book of Ezra, it talks about the book of Jeremiah. In the book of Jeremiah, it talks about the Holy Spirit and the presence of God. If you don't have that, if you're not doing this with your heart, you are just following these rules for no reason. People really get lost in that. All right? The presence of God wasn't there. And there's The real presence, and it's changed. The presence of God isn't just a box anymore. It is, it's, who is it, guys? Who is it going to be? Who should be in your temple? Remember, this temple is supposed to represent you. If you don't have the real presence of God in you, you can do all the rules you want. You will still be led astray. Okay, you have to have the Holy Spirit and God and Jesus. Okay, you have to have Jesus, you guys. God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit should be in your temple. That is the main focus. That is always your main focus. Yes, you should follow the rules. Yes, you should build a wall against the enemy, which is the devil, right? And essentially, this is talking about your soul, okay? The temple is your soul. But if you don't have the real Jesus and the real Holy Spirit and real God inside your temple, inside you, it doesn't matter. It's not going to mean anything. That's why nothing happened in these books. They did everything. They are following the law perfectly, and that's why the people kept falling. Okay, nothing really amazing happened. They followed all the rules, but they lost focus on what was the most important thing. Okay, and this is the sacrifice they should have been putting in the center. The sacrifice is Jesus, not animal sacrifice, right? Yes, you have to sacrifice your time and stuff like that. You can do all that stuff, but you have to trust in the sacrifice, which is Jesus. Okay, that's the whole point of these two books. That was the whole. That's what was lost when they first came back. Okay, they did not have the discernment of the Holy Spirit. They weren't focusing on God. Okay, and the Holy Spirit. They needed the Holy Spirit to get back to that. That Holy Spirit, you can sense that it's not there with everyone. Okay, and this is why Jesus had to die and rise from the dead, so the Holy Spirit can lead people naturally to stuff. They're not going to do it just by reading the rules, okay? All right? So, that's the whole point of these two books. That's the whole point of these two books. You can follow all the rules you want, but it's not going to matter if you don't really have Jesus in your heart, in the center of your world, all right? These two books of the Bible, these two stories really pound in the fact that you cannot be saved by works. Okay, if you do not have Jesus and God in you, it doesn't matter. And the Holy Spirit, okay? It's not through works. You can follow all the rules you want. But if you don't have Jesus, that's not going to matter. Okay? Not through works. That's this whole two books of the Bible is about. The main focus, anyway. There's lots of little meanings, but it's main focus, I think. You guys, this is why in the book of Revelations it says Jesus will sit in the middle of Jerusalem in the temple. It's a metaphor, okay? It's a metaphor for all of this. Jesus has to be in your temple, in you and your soul, to get saved. Okay? This is why all this it explains this in blaring detail in the book of Revelations, okay? What these two books are trying to say. Okay, everything leads to Jesus being in the middle of the temple, which is you. Your soul. You in the middle of the Jerusalem, okay? Please know that's what this means. Okay? Jesus has to be the center. He has to mean everything. Or you are going to lead astray. You can follow all the rules you want, you will still be led astray. Not through works, okay? Through the discernment of the Holy Spirit and Jesus and God. Okay? Alright. Think about this, guys. Alright. Think about it. Please do. Thank you.